If you're feeling overwhelmed by stress or struggling with hormonal imbalances while on your fertility journey, this episode is for you. Covering the hidden relationship between stress, trauma, and hormonal balance, exploring how these factors can affect your ability to conceive. Get ready to step closer to balance and empowerment on your fertility success journey. Welcome back to Fertile Frequencies Radio, where we explore the intersection of holistic fertility health, science, and the fertile mind, and the spiritual energies to empower you on your fertility and beyond. I'm your host, Lindsay, and today we are focusing on a topic that affects so many individuals trying to conceive, but rarely it gets enough attention. And today, that conversation is going to be about the profound impact that stress and trauma can really have on hormonal balance as well as your fertility success. So, we are going to be also talking about somatic and subconscious mind therapies to help heal and relax and improve your conception success. The impact of stress and trauma on hormones is so significant. And this podcast is so much about the subconscious mind and how it really is relating to fertility success. So, how does chronic stress and unprocessed trauma impact our hormonal health and fertility? Chronic stress signals the brain to release cortisol, a stress hormone, and while it's essential in short-term response to things like danger, like being chased by a bear, long-term elevated cortisol levels can lead to hormonal imbalance by suppressing important hormones like progesterone, estrogen, which are key for fertility. I'm also going to say that FSH is and egg quality can be extremely impacted by high levels of stress. I had a client the other day that I was working with, and her hormones were significantly different between two different time frames, and it really wasn't that much of a difference in time. It was like 4 months of testing the hormones between each other. And what I noticed, and this happens often, is there was such a huge, significant jump in the hormones being abnormal. And this particular person was going through a lot in their life, and there was quite a difference in the energy that was going on at the time in their particular life. And so that made quite a difference in the hormonal balance. I've seen this often where when we work on the subconscious mind, we work on some healing and really helping to bring those stress levels down. It rebalances the hormones. Then we go back and test things like FSH, progesterone, estrogen can be affected by stress, and as well as the AMH, and go back and test that after a few months of these therapies. And the hormones have significantly improved. It's really, really, really powerful stuff. So, unprocessed trauma is another layer that we can definitely discuss and that we are going to. It's not just emotional, but it's somatic. Trauma really alters the way that our body's nervous system is functioning. It's keeping us in a state of fight or flight, or even like a freeze mode. And when this is happening repeatedly, what is really going on is it's disrupting the communication between your brain and the reproductive system. And science is backing this up. For instance, studies have shown how stress can even be delaying ovulation, impair egg quality, and reduce implantation rates. That's really staggering stuff. And we're not always thinking about stuff like this. Now, with this being said, we also have to remember that unprocessed grief, for example, like previous losses or even birth trauma, can significantly impact healthy conception. Now, I talk a lot about, I'm an acupuncturist and doctor of Chinese medicine. And so I will integrate a lot of Eastern philosophy into my work overall and my philosophy of my fertility method. What I have found is that when we have a lot of grief, there could actually be a lot of stuff going on with the lungs, with the immune system, with the respiratory system, because in traditional Chinese medicine, the lungs are actually relating to the emotion of grief. And so the immune system is super important for the gut health as well as egg quality. Well, gut health, it's all connected. So we really have to remember that everything is connected and it is not separate from one another, that the emotions are really affecting how these different systems in our body are working. And in acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine, that there's something called meridians, which are these invisible pathways, and they're connected to different organs. I'll give you another example, that the liver, and we do see this in modern medicine for fertility, is the liver can become very congested, and what that's doing is that even can be creating fertility obstacles, because a congested liver is creating a ton of inflammation all over the body. The liver is connected to the energy of anger, and we can, in traditional Chinese medicine, and I'm sure that we can think of, probably in your fertility journey, you feel very angry if you're struggling and you've been struggling for a long time. So we have to address these emotions. It's super powerful. If you're listening to this podcast and you've been struggling with fertility for a while, you know that what you've been doing is not working, because if it had been working, you probably wouldn't be listening to me. And also, something that's important to note is that 1 in 6 couples struggle with infertility. I'm not a huge fan of the infertility word, but we'll use it because that's what most people think of it as. But I prefer to say fertility obstacles or struggles, because infertility to me feels like that there's something wrong with you. There's essentially not anything wrong with you. It's very, very low probability that the most people that are diagnosed with infertility are not going to be able to have children. I believe that if you desire it, then it is meant for you. It's just figuring out what needs to work and putting those puzzle pieces together, doing the detective work, even though it's not fun to be a hormone and fertility detective. But we just have to dig deeper to figure out what's going on. And but getting back to my point of 1 in 6 of these couples struggling with infertility, 10% of those couples are diagnosed with unexplained infertility. Now, unexplained infertility, what does that really mean? Well, what that really means is that the doctors can't figure out, science can't identify what is going on. And sometimes that's a bigger sting to get than getting a diagnosis of something like PCOS or endometriosis or some sort of hormonal imbalance. Or it could possibly be sperm factor as well, remembering that 50% of this is about the guys too. It's really detrimental to get this diagnosis. And when we think about this, well, that just means that there's an energy component going on here, which is probably relating to something to do within the subconscious mind. Of, believe it or not, could actually be self-sabotage. Now, why would we self-sabotage our fertility? There could be some program underlying there in the subconscious mind about that, possibly, maybe you had someone that in your family that struggled with infertility, and you planted a seed a long time ago thinking that you were going to have infertility. It's been there a really long time, and you completely don't even know that it's on autopilot. So this is what we do with some of the tools that I use in helping to reprogram the subconscious mind, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Back to the emotions, the reason why grief is so essential in addressing is because, especially in pregnancy and birth loss, trauma, deep in the subconscious mind and the body, and it's creating emotional blockages that trigger an ongoing stress response. It's important to acknowledge and process and release grief gently, to create a safe space for both your body and your mind for fertility. Now, therapies to heal and promote fertility, which lead me into healing. Many of you listening want to know, what can I do? And I'm going to share that with you right now. First, I often encourage a combination of somatic and subconscious mind therapies. Somatic therapies help the body release trauma, whether through yoga, breath work, or physical movement. Subconscious therapies like hypnotherapy work on a deeper level to reprogram limiting beliefs that are tied to fertility and hormonal obstacles. Now, next, I am going to be talking about NLP. I really love NLP. NLP stands for Neuro-linguistic Programming. And really essentially what this is it's reading the body through the senses, through the awareness, through the subconscious mind, as well as the communication and the outcomes, okay? So there's going to be 3 steps to this, and really what we're doing is that we're learning to be able to reframe these limiting beliefs through different techniques that we use. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of my favorite techniques that I use and help you to understand a little bit more about the powerful aspects of NLP as well as hypnotherapy. I'm not going to talk too much about hypnotherapy, but they do cross over a lot because it's really about reprogramming the subconscious mind and remembering the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between real and fake. It is looking to be directed. So that means that you have complete control over it, but you have to learn how to use it. Now, why is this so incredibly powerful in fertility? Because going back again to what I was stating just a moment ago, when we are focused on some sort of limiting belief that could be related to some sort of trauma, whether that be miscarriages, baby loss, maybe we had our own birth trauma, or we had a sibling that had birth trauma, or a mom had birth trauma, and this is tied and connected to our energy. And these could be lodged in the subconscious mind, as well as I won't get into this too much, but past life regression, which is something that I do. And there could be from another lifetime that there could be birth trauma as well. So that is also something that we look at, that I look at with my clients. Some very powerful tools that I use. One would be meta model in NLP. And that really is the idea of helping you to reframe a limiting belief. So we do a series of questions and breaking it down to really figure out where that limiting belief is and then reset it. Then we have anchoring, which is tied to, we take a, for example, good feeling, to use that example, because I use this a lot in anxiety, is picking a time in your life when you felt safe, and then you choose an anchor like on your knuckle when you are feeling unsafe, and you close your eyes and tune into your anchor. And then what happens is it's resetting your central nervous system. It's telling your subconscious mind that you are okay and you're not in threat. So this is a really powerful tool to use. I absolutely love NLP for fertility. Now we're moving along to talking about some tools that are really impactful when it comes to fertility. And they work because they address both the biological and emotional blocks when you're regulating your nervous system. Your body is signaling to your reproductive system that it's safe to conceive. And for women especially, the link between emotional safety and biological readiness for fertility is incredibly strong. I'm going to say it's not just women. I can't tell you how many times over the years that I have had men in the dynamic that have actually been the ones that have been blocking the fertility from manifesting. So the guys can have things going on as well, where they might not be fully ready for the baby. And so we identify that. And I work with the couples a lot to be able to help them strengthen their relationship, which is super powerful in this as well, but also to identify individually what could possibly be going on. Because remembering, this is not just the job of the woman here. This is the job of both partners, and doesn't have to necessarily be a man or a woman. It can be both partners. Both partners have a significant role in this process. So it's important for us to support both. So how is your stress affecting hormones? Well, stress is playing a crucial role in disrupting the delicate balance of hormones within the body, which can impact fertility directly. And when you experience stress, your body, like I was stating before, is releasing cortisol as well as adrenaline, known as the stress hormones, which elevated levels of these hormones are going to suppress the production of other essential hormones, which I talked about a little bit earlier, like estrogen, progesterone, and LH, luteinizing hormone, which are crucial for ovulation and conception. Chronic stress can disrupt the HPA axis in your brain, which is part of the hormonal balance, and is impairing the communication between your brain and your reproductive organs. Okay, so we have to have that open communication between the two, or we're going to have some issues with hormones. Now, interesting to note here, your brain is inside of your body. So, why is it for so many years that we have not been supporting mindset and emotions during fertility journeys? This is a huge reason, in my opinion, that I believe that unexplained infertility is existing here. I'm going to share this with you. I talk about it probably on every episode. But in 2011, from Harvard University, that they were doing studies on, a lot of it was for fertility treatments, IVF, that when these patients were engaging in mind-body therapies like hypnotherapy, visualizations, emotional therapy, mindfulness, meditation, journaling, anything to help to regulate their nervous system, that they had a much higher success rate, over 50% success rate, compared to 20% success rate before they were engaging in these mind-body therapies through the study. So the evidence is there. Science is backing this up, that our brain has a huge impact physically. Obviously, our brain has so much to do with hormonal balance in the endocrine system, which is the hormone system. If you don't know what the endocrine system is, also, it's about the energy of communicating to the body if this is a safe environment. Is the body ready for a pregnancy? And when the hormones are going haywire because of stress and they're not balanced, the body is saying, no, 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 this is not the proper place. It's not the time for a pregnancy. So we really have to focus on more than just the physical side of fertility. We have to consider that the emotions and how you're feeling and what you're believing in, what you're buying into, that this is super important. And I want you to be empowered by this. I think often I've been seeing a lot of anger towards people talking about mindset and emotions and how this is not related to that. This is an actual physical issue. Absolutely, I agree. It is a physical issue. But do I agree with the fact that people are thinking their emotions are not as significant and how your body is physically functioning? I don't agree with that at all. I think that that's actually something that people are really missing if that's the train that they're on. And everyone's entitled to their own perspective. But keeping your mind open is how you are going to be able to get yourself to the place that you want to be, which in this case is a successful, healthy pregnancy. And to stay pregnant as well. I know that's a lot of fear for a lot of people is, am I going to stay pregnant? So moving on, we have to remember that this whole hormonal balance, that it's creating a cascade of effects that can lead to irregular menstrual cycles. Your cycle is so affected by the emotions, as well as reduced ovarian function. I see that all the time when I was talking earlier about the significant difference in hormones based on what that particular person is going through in their life at that time, life events, that can have such a huge impact on the egg quality, as well as all of this can decrease the likelihood of conception because the brain is telling the body what to do. And an important note to make here is, if we ever think that we're not 100% energy, I want to give you an example. Every one of your cells has mitochondria in it. What is mitochondria? It's energy. It's the powerhouse of the cell. So why would we ever think that we're not completely all energy? Our energy is impacting everything. We can talk about scientific studies. We can run all the hormone panels we want. We can eat the most perfect diet, take all the supplements. But if our energy is off, that could be the culprit. Probably is, because you are energy. You are 100% energy. Everything in this universe is energy. There is nothing in this universe that is not energy. The only reason you are in a physical body is because a ton of cells, known as energy, have spun together to create a physical object, which is the human body. Okay. So everything, even the table, even your car, it's all energy. Does it have a heartbeat? Not like we do, but other things that are alive in this world, like plants, also have an energy component to them. Even objects that don't, like a table, still are energy because they're cells of something coming from something else. Like if you have a table that's made from wood, well, that was a tree. Or if it's pressed wood, it still was partly wood. So it's still energy. Everything is energy. It is the root. I'm going to say the root of everything is energy. When we think about some actionable tips to improve fertility outcomes, I'm going to give you some actionable practical tips today. And we're going to start off with what we've been talking about the entire time is prioritizing stress management and really incorporating these daily activities like, I'm going to say it, meditation, breath work, or even just a walk outdoors to lower your cortisol levels. Keeping yourself close to nature, remembering that nature is the feminine energy. The feminine energy is fertility. It's creation. Fertility is creation. Is it creation about babies? Absolutely. But it's also creation of projects, of businesses, of planting flowers, of creating a painting, of dancing. It's creation. Keeping yourself close to nature is super powerful, as well as your spirit baby will communicate with you through nature. Okay. So breathing the fresh air, experiencing the butterflies outside. They're so beautiful right now with it being summer, as well as looking at the trees, feeling the breeze. I had a client recently, her baby was communicating with her through the breeze. And that was an amazing experience to witness and talk about. Definitely get yourself outside and really prioritize the stress management. Also, nourish your body with intentional nutrition. Remembering that food does have a frequency, I highly recommend that you are eating foods with higher frequency, which that being fresh foods. Definitely not a fan of salads when you're trying to conceive because it creates a cold womb, we call it. You want to eat more cooked vegetables as well as a lot of bone broth. If you are consuming vegetables as well as any animal proteins, making sure that they are grass fed as well as organic. Grass fed's probably most important just because of the hormones in there. So you want to make sure that you're eating well nourished foods. And also remembering that when we do consume animal products, if they are coming from farms where the animals are mistreated, that also is releasing hormones into their muscles, and then energetically we are consuming that. Those are a different kind of hormone than added hormones that they're adding into the animals if they're not free range and organic. But also energetically, you want to consume food as much as you can from even fruits and vegetables that are from places that there's good energy. And I know that's hard to do because of just how our world is, that so much stuff is not even local anymore. But with it being summer in a lot of places right now of the world, that trying to buy local is really important. And definitely if you're consuming honey, buy that locally, because that there's something more therapeutic about the bees being close to where you live. I'm going to add vitamin D in there too. Now, you do want to make sure that you get that tested, because that is a fat soluble vitamin. Okay. You do have to be careful with that, because what fat soluble is it will actually deposit in your body. It doesn't get rid of it like a water soluble. You don't want to take too much of the fat soluble vitamins, because then it can become toxicity. You want to get tested for that and make sure, just to see where your vitamin D levels are. And just to state for a disclaimer, it's already in the show notes, but this is a podcast, so this is for educational purposes only. I'm not your medical provider. You are listening to this podcast for educational only. Also, we want to build and support our systems, really surrounding yourself with energies that empower you. That includes people, places, and things. Okay. People probably being the biggest, just because people, if they're deciding and choosing what vibrational frequency they choose to be on. So make sure that you're around people that are empowering and uplifting you. If you have pets, pets are a really great way to be able to be and feel uplifted, as well as children. Kids are so awesome. They are, if you have kids already, they are in their intuitive imagination, and they're just so much fun to be around. So I highly recommend, if you are trying to conceive, play with your kids as much as you can, be around that energy, even act like them. I'm not saying to, you know, throw a temper tantrum in the store, but more about, pay attention to your kids when they are being in that imagination mode, because that really is your connection to source or to God, is the imagination. Really powerful stuff. I also want you to recognize and release any traumas that you have. You can take small steps towards processing these grief and trauma feelings and emotions, and that can be through simple things like journaling, as well as some conscious mind therapy. Also, practicing mindful breathing, which you can incorporate deep breathing exercises into your daily routine to reduce stress and support hormonal balance. And just a few slow, intentional breaths can activate your nervous system, promoting relaxation and enhancing fertility. Here is something to think about. If you even take 5 minutes in the morning to do a grounding exercise, making sure that when you're breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, usually for a count of 7 is really powerful. Seven's a very powerful number, a very spiritual number. And imagining that you're grounding your energy to the earth. And then as you're doing that, there's white light that's coming out of your crown chakra. Now, I say out of your crown chakra and not in your crown chakra, because everything that you desire, including all of the light, all of the love, all of the protection, everything is already within you. It is not outside of you. My philosophy is to go within rather than visualizing things outside of you. It's already within you. When you're using light, like white light, visualizing it coming out of your own body and wrapping around you, because then that's really empowering, and knowing that you have the power to heal yourself. You have the power to be able to be in this higher vibrational version of yourself, including in your physical health, your mental health, as well as your energetic health. Sleep is so important. If you're not sleeping correctly when you're trying to get pregnant, that could probably be a huge culprit of infertility. Now, the reason why is because we need consistent sleep to be able to recharge. That makes sense. But also on the soul level, we need our body to go to sleep so that we can actually start doing energetic work when we're sleeping. Your soul actually is traveling and doing other things while the body is sleeping. Sleep is non-negotiable. It is something on the physical level that we have to be doing, but also on the spiritual level, we have to sleep. It is essential. Meditation is also essential. Going within is also essential. These are things that we have to do, just like drinking enough water, just like eating the proper foods. The reason why is because it's written in law. If we are not in spiritual law and universal law, if we are not going to do this, then we are going to start getting disease. And disease, things like hormonal imbalances, are considered disease because they're dis-ease. They're imbalances. And when we have imbalances, what's happening is that, as you know, as you can, I'm sure that you're fully aware of this, things are not functioning properly. That means also that we're not probably connected to ourselves spiritually and energetically. We have to do these things. We cannot opt out of them because we don't have time. We have to make time or we deal with it later. Very empowering stuff. I'm here to empower you, give you the best information, education to be able to help you to awaken yourself within that's already there and really be able to manifest the desires that are already within you. You're just opening those doorways. And so you really want to try to limit the screen time before bed. I know it's not fun. I know I love scrolling TikTok too, or looking at YouTube videos or listen to podcasts. I highly recommend when your subconscious mind is in that sleep state just before you go to sleep that you listen to affirmations or something that's really empowering, like a podcast that's helping you to reset. Maybe it has affirmations or something like that, helping you to reset your subconscious mind, because that's really when you're doing it is in those sleep states. And they can actually be things like theta. Theta is just before you go into beta, which beta is going to be deep, deep, deep REM sleep, where theta, you're kind of still awake and aware. So theta is a really therapeutic brain wave state to be in, a frequency. So highly recommend that you use that time in the early morning when you wake up, as well as just before you go to bed, to use affirmations, as well as you could listen to a podcast that could be empowering for you. Also, staying active, getting into that gentle movement. I'm not a huge fan of going crazy with running and things like that when you're trying to conceive, because it's putting you in your body in the idea of it could be even fight or flight. I know that could be ruffle some feathers there with some people that are avid runners, but walking is better. If you're trying to conceive, walking is better. Nothing that's, I generally say anything that's too high intensity, I'm not going to recommend it. I am going to add, though, that not doing any sort of exercise is not good either, because that's making it so your blood becomes stagnant. And we need good blood circulation getting to the uterus and to the ovaries, as well as the reproductive system for guys as well, to be able to have that proper circulation to be nourishing the body. Also, something that's really powerful to remember is cultivating gratitude. And you can do this at the end of the day, or you could do it in the morning when you get up. You could write down 5 intentions for the day, 5 things that you're grateful for, and keep a journal of it, because it's really amazing to watch and see how you evolve and change. I have journal entries from years ago, and I love going back and reading them, because some of them I just cannot even believe that I was that person compared to where I am now. And it's beautiful to be able to look back in hindsight and love that version of you, even if you're completely different than that now. But it can be really therapeutic to see how much you've grown. So I highly recommend keeping track of that. Well, it is absolutely wonderful to spend time with you today. I just am so incredibly grateful that you tuned in to Fertile Frequencies. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. I always love having you join. And if you have any questions, reach out. Also, if you haven't already, please leave us a review. We absolutely love the support. And make sure to hit that subscribe button. We are on every platform for this podcast. And thank you again for joining me. And I'll see you in the next episode here on Fertile Frequencies Radio.